Hi, welcome to the video, The 7 Secrets to Enjoying Your Trip to New York City. Before we go into the 7 secrets, I'd like to tell you a quick story about how I fell in love with New York City and why I started my company, Uncle Sam's New York. When I went to college in upstate New York over 15 years ago, I traveled to New York City on several occasions, and my overwhelming impression of New York City was it was over-commercialized, and I found it far too big and loud to really get my head around it. When I graduated from college, I had the opportunity to live and work in Europe. It was during this period of my life that I fell in love with traveling to new cities, with a guidebook and just exploring, creating my own adventures. I visited all the greatest cities in Europe, and over this time, I began to see the magic of travel. Looking back, I realized that the reason why we travel is not to see the sights, but to create stories we can go home and tell for the rest of our lives. The places I remember most from Europe are the places where I met interesting people and saw amazing sights, and the two combined to form an amazing story. 10 years later, when I was planning where to attend graduate school, I decided to come to New York City, and this time I stayed with a friend. Within a week of living with a real New Yorker who showed me how to use the subway system and where to really go in the city, places like Soho and Greenwich Village and the Meatpacking District and the other hidden gems, I immediately fell in love with New York City, and I realized it's the greatest city in the world. What changed? Not New York City. Really, I had found someone who showed me the real New York City, where real New Yorkers hang out. It was at this point that I decided to combine my passion for travel with my newfound love for New York City. And I wanted to give travelers from all over the world the gift that I had received with the inside knowledge of real New Yorkers. I also envisioned a new kind of tour that brought people together from all over the world, making it a social experience through walking tours, shopping tours, pub crawls, and nightclub tours. According to our philosophy at Uncle Sam's New York, the tour is really just an excuse to get some great stories, both from the tour guide and, more importantly, from what you did with the local travelers. But I had this great idea showing people New York City, and I had no idea where to start. I wasn't even from New York. I had to learn everything about New York City very quickly. In despair, I almost stopped before I'd even started. And then I stumbled upon the age-old secret of kings and generals. So let me explain. Concierges and tour guides. You see, the first tour guides in history were the ancient battlefield scouts that guided the great generals of history around unfamiliar lands. The most famous example being the Greek guide for the Persian king in the movie 300. As the travel industry took hold in the Middle Ages, wealthy merchants began to hire guides, and this began the rise of the tour guide in the world of travel. The first concierges emerged as chief officer to the kings of Europe in the Middle Ages, starting in France. As noble lords began to emerge and gain power, they also hired their own concierges to be like the king. With the industrial age, new wealthy elites in the cities began to hire concierges for their apartment buildings. Then, as everyone started to travel, they started to demand the same services at their luxury hotels. And concierges have been an elite class in the travel industry ever since, holding the key to the places they represent to travelers. And as I went on this quest to discover the secrets of New York City, I found out that the key to unlocking the secrets of the city for my guests was to tap into these ancient fraternities of the travel community, the tour guides and the concierges. I interviewed all the best tour guides in the city. I even became a tour guide. And I also became a member of the New York City Association of Hotel Concierges. And Uncle Sam's New York became the largest walking tour company in New York City with their expert assistants. So after all that, I've learned in building this company from the best tour guides and concierges in New York City helping me design the optimal guest experience, and from interviewing thousands of travelers, I've put together this free video. I've researched New York City extensively, trying to create the best guest experience for those I have the privilege of hosting. And this has put me in touch with the best tour guides and the best concierges in New York City. Together, we sat down and came up with this report with the 7 secrets to planning your trip to New York City.